I watched through the window as my husband introduced his mistress to our children as their new mother. My own mother stood beside him smiling. They'd planned this for months. What they didn't know? I'd planned for longer, and I was about to take everything they thought was theirs. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button. You won't believe how this ends. Trust me, you'll want to see the moment they realize what she's become. My name is Victoria, and 12 years ago, I thought I'd found my forever. Robert was everything I dreamed of: charming, ambitious, supportive. We met at a charity gala where I was presenting my first pharmaceutical patent. I'd spent 6 years developing a breakthrough pain management formula, pouring every cent I had into research. He told me I was brilliant. He told me he'd never met anyone like me. We got married within a year. I was 22, hopeful, and stupidly in love. My company was just taking off, and Robert was climbing the ranks at a prestigious investment firm. We bought a beautiful colonial house overlooking the harbor in our small New England town. White shutters, blue door, garden full of hydrangeas. It looked like a postcard. It felt like home. Then came Lily, our daughter, with her father's green eyes and my stubborn chin. 3 years later, Daniel arrived, all giggles and endless energy. My mother, Patricia, moved into our guest house after my father passed. She'd always been critical, always had an opinion about how I dressed or raised my kids, but she was family. I thought having her close would be good for the children. For years, everything seemed perfect. My company grew beyond my wildest expectations. We developed 3 more patents, employed over 200 people, and became the leading supplier for major hospital networks across the Northeast. Robert seemed proud. He'd brag about me at dinner parties, call me his genius wife. I worked 60-hour weeks but never missed a school play or soccer game. I was determined to be everything: the CEO, the wife, the mother. But perfection is just a mask, isn't it? And masks eventually crack. It started small. Robert's late nights became more frequent. He'd come home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine, but he'd explain it away: client dinners, networking events. My mother started making comments. "You're looking tired, Victoria. Maybe you should take better care of yourself. Robert is still a young, attractive man." I'd laugh it off, but the words stuck like thorns. Then came the distance. Robert stopped asking about my day. He'd scroll through his phone during dinner, barely acknowledging when I spoke. The kids noticed. Lily asked me once, "Why doesn't Daddy look at you anymore, Mommy?" I had no answer. I told myself it was stress, that we just needed to reconnect. I planned date nights. He canceled them. I suggested couples therapy. He said I was overreacting. I wasn't overreacting. I was being replaced. The discovery came on a Tuesday evening. Daniel had left the family iPad on the kitchen counter, still logged into Robert's messaging app. I wasn't snooping. The notification just popped up. "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Your mom is covering for us again." My hands shook as I read backwards through months of messages. The woman's name was Natalie, 28 years old, a yoga instructor he'd met at the gym I'd bought him a membership to. But that wasn't the knife in my heart. It was the other participant in the group chat. My mother, Patricia, sending messages like, "Victoria's working late again, you two have until 10. And she's so focused on that company, she doesn't even notice what she's losing." My own mother, the woman who raised me, she was helping my husband cheat. I couldn't breathe. I sat in my kitchen, the kitchen I'd designed, in the house I'd bought, and felt my entire world collapse. But I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I hired a private investigator, a woman named Helen, mid-50s, with kind eyes and a reputation for finding truth in lies. What Helen uncovered was worse than I imagined. The affair had been going on for 14 months. Natalie had been to my house, met my children as Daddy's friend from the gym. My mother had been babysitting while Robert took his mistress to hotels, restaurants, weekend trips to the mountains. But it went deeper than sex and lies. Robert had been accessing my company files. He'd been studying our business model, our patents, our financial projections. He was planning to push me out. The strategy was simple and cruel. Divorce me, claim I was mentally unstable from work stress, fight for full custody of the kids, and take control of the company through some legal loophole his lawyer had found. My mother had agreed to testify that I was an unfit mother, too career-focused, emotionally absent, possibly depressed. Natalie was already being positioned as the replacement, the better mother, the devoted woman who'd step in and love my children while I was discarded like broken furniture. I found all of this out over 3 weeks, 3 weeks where I smiled at breakfast, kissed my children goodnight, and made small talk with my mother while she was actively conspiring to destroy me. 3 weeks where I died a little bit more each day. Then I confronted them. I chose a Sunday dinner. The whole family gathered around the table I'd inherited from my grandmother. I laid the evidence out calmly. Printed messages, photos, financial records. I asked Robert one question. Is it true? He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He put down his fork, wiped his mouth with a napkin and said, "Yes, and honestly, Victoria, this is for the best. You're married to your work. The kids barely know you. Natalie is good for them. She's present, she's warm, she's what a mother should be." My mother nodded. Actually, nodded in agreement. "Sweetheart, you have to understand. Robert has needs. You've changed. You're not the woman he married." Lily started crying. Daniel looked terrified. I felt like I was watching the scene from outside my body. Robert told me, in front of our children, that I needed to move out, give him space to transition the family. He'd already spoken to his lawyer. Papers were being filed. I left that night. I packed a bag, kissed my confused children, and drove to a hotel by the highway. I sat on the scratchy bedspread and stared at my reflection in the mirror across from the bed. My eyes were hollow. My face was pale. I looked like a ghost. For exactly 4 hours I considered giving up, signing whatever papers he wanted, walking away, letting them win. It would be easier. It would hurt less. But then the sun started to rise, and I saw something different in that mirror. I saw the woman who'd put herself through graduate school on scholarships and stubbornness, the woman who'd heard no from 17 investors before finally getting funding, the woman who'd built something real and valuable from nothing but an idea and relentless work. I saw a fighter. And fighters don't surrender. I called my lawyer first, then my accountant, then my mentor from business school. Within 48 hours, I had a team and a plan. The facts were simple and powerful. The company was solely in my name, established 3 years before marriage with no commingling of funds. Robert's investment firm was struggling. Helen discovered he'd been borrowing against our home and making bad trades. He needed my money to survive. My mother was financially dependent on the monthly allowance I gave her and the free housing. And Robert had made a critical mistake. He'd accessed my company servers without authorization, downloading proprietary information. That wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. Corporate espionage, a felony. I played the role they expected, the broken, defeated wife. I agreed to a trial separation. I moved into a modest apartment across town. I cried in front of Robert and begged him to reconsider. He patted my hand like I was a child and said, "You'll be happier this way, Victoria. You can focus on your work without the burden of family." But while I played weak, I was building a fortress. I documented everything, installed recording apps with my lawyer's guidance, saved every text, every email, every financial transaction. I reached out to Robert's partners at his firm and casually mentioned some irregularities I'd noticed in our personal accounts. They started their own investigation. What they found was damning. Robert had been embezzling client funds to cover his losses, hiding it in complex trades. I also filed a report with Child Protective Services, providing evidence of parental alienation and the inappropriate introduction of a paramour to my children during an active marriage. The social worker who came to investigate was thorough and professional. She saw through Robert's charm in about 15 minutes. Meanwhile, Natalie moved into my house. My mother helped her redecorate my bedroom. They posted photos on social media, playing happy family with my children. Robert looked so pleased with himself. He'd won, or so he thought. But reality has a way of crushing fantasy. Natalie wasn't prepared for actual parenting. Lily threw tantrums, refusing to listen to the yoga lady. Daniel started wetting the bed again, asking for me every night. Robert grew frustrated when his picture-perfect replacement family turned out to be messy and complicated and real. Natalie started complaining that this wasn't what she'd signed up for. She'd imagined shopping trips and spa days, not homework battles and sleepless nights. I watched from a distance, getting weekly reports from Helen and staying in contact with my children through supervised calls. It was agony being away from them, but I knew this was temporary. I was playing the long game. 3 months after I'd moved out, Robert's world started crumbling. His firm fired him when the embezzlement came to light. Criminal charges followed. His lawyer fees drained what little savings he had. He tried to access our joint accounts. Frozen. He tried to borrow against the house. Impossible, since it was in my name alone. Then came the divorce filing. Not his, mine. My lawyer presented a case so airtight that Robert's attorney actually gasped when reading through it. The prenuptial agreement we'd signed protected my company and any assets I'd brought to the marriage. Robert's infidelity was documented in excruciating detail. His corporate espionage, his embezzlement, his parental alienation, all laid out with evidence and witness statements. My mother received her own notice. I was terminating her housing, her allowance, everything. She called me, hysterical, begging me to reconsider. I listened to her cry and plead, and then I said, "You chose your side, Mother. Live with it." And I hung up. Natalie disappeared before the court date. Just packed her bags one night and left. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd already moved on to another relationship, another married man with another family to destroy. She'd never loved Robert. She'd loved the lifestyle, the illusion. When that crumbled, so did her interest. The court hearing was almost anticlimactic. Robert showed up looking haggard, his expensive suit rumpled. My mother was there to testify in his favor, but my lawyer demolished her credibility in minutes. When confronted with the messages she'd sent, the lies she'd told, she broke down and admitted she'd been wrong. Too little, too late. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s who'd clearly seen every trick in the book, awarded me full custody, the house, complete control of my company, and a restraining order against Robert coming near my business. He was granted supervised visitation with the children twice a month, pending completion of a parenting course and therapy. His criminal case was still pending, but his lawyers were already negotiating a plea deal that would likely include prison time. I walked out of that courthouse with my head high. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. I felt like I could breathe again for the first time in months. Bringing my children home was the hardest and most beautiful moment of my life. They'd been through trauma, confusion, and fear. We started family therapy immediately. I explained, in age-appropriate ways, that Daddy had made some very bad choices, but that it wasn't their fault, and that I would always, always fight for them. Lily asked me one night, as I was tucking her in, "Is Mommy really back?" She said it like she'd been afraid I was a dream, that I might disappear again. I held her close and whispered, "Mommy never left, sweetheart. I was just fighting for us, and I won." That was 2 years ago. My company has grown exponentially. We've developed 2 new patents and expanded into international markets. My children are thriving. Lily is in middle school now, confident and strong. Daniel stopped having nightmares months ago and is back to being the joyful kid he was born to be. We go to therapy regularly, all of us, because healing isn't linear and some scars take time. Robert works at a retail store now, living in a studio apartment on the other side of town. He sees the kids twice a month at a supervised facility. He's paying off his legal debts and will be for years. Sometimes I see him across town and he looks so much older now, so diminished. I don't feel hatred anymore, just a distant kind of pity. Natalie got married last year to another woman's husband. Some people never learn. My mother sends letters occasionally, begging for forgiveness, asking to see her grandchildren. They sit unopened in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll read them. Maybe not. Some betrayals are too deep for reconciliation. As for me, I learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew. That kindness isn't weakness, but weaponized kindness, strategic grace, that's power. I learned that you can't destroy someone who refuses to stay broken. They mistook my silence for defeat. They thought the woman who built an empire couldn't fight back. They forgot who I was. I didn't just build a business, I built myself. And when they tried to tear me down, I rebuilt, stronger, smarter, unbreakable. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to remember their own strength. Drop a comment telling me, would you forgive the mother? I read every single one. More unbelievable true stories coming next week. Remember, never underestimate the quiet ones. They're planning.